Bung Pod. Welcome back, Wine Wonder Boy.
And we got Jazzy J. Jazzy!
What is a bung?
The hole of the barrel is called a bung hole. Inside the bung hole is called a bung. Wine with mayhem. That's what it's about. Jabroni gang. What up, guys? Thank you so much for supporting us. If you listen to the episode, we got Chris Horn here from Purple Cafe. He is the director of liquids. Really awesome dude. We were just talking about terroir if you listen to the original episode. And so I haven't prepped him on some questions I'm going to ask him, but
oh, great.
They're nothing crazy, honestly.
No,
so
I've got nothing to hide.
Yeah. But we were talking about terroir earlier and marketing.
Yeah.
A lot of the wine marketing.
Yeah.
But kind of going in that same vein, where are you at with the importance of blind tastings?
Okay. I've done a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as a wine buyer, the only blind spot should be the price.
Right.
Because
I like that.
When I'm tasting with people, if I've never tasted with them before, I'll warn them, don't tell me how much this fucking costs, because I won't fucking buy it, because it's always going to be more expensive than it should be. But when you are tasting a wine and you're putting it in contest with all those other, say, Syrahs from the Columbia Valley, and you can get that price in your brain and go, oh, fuck, if this thing is less than $21, I'm going to buy a bunch of it. Yeah. And then if they say it's 28, you're like, okay. Yeah. But if they say, we got a deal we're trying to move some for $13.99, you're like, how much you got?
Yeah.
So that...
Real quick, just for the people that are not familiar with how wine buying works, they're hearing all these low prices, like, I can buy a bottle for
That's
13.
Wholesale.
Wholesale,
yeah.
people.
Don't worry.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt
Things
you.
get marked up.
Yeah.
There's another thing. People bitch about wine markups. How much did that fucking T-shirt you bought at Banana Republic for $35 cost to be made? Like,
right.
That's
a great point.
Or that cocktail that you just paid $18 for. How much do you think that cost to make?
The ingredients cost and everything.
Or a fucking pint of beer.
Yeah.
Like, we're okay. But with wine, for some reason, people are always like, I hate it when people are in the fucking restaurant and they're looking at the wine list and they got their fucking wine searcher out and they're like, oh, well, the retail on this is $28, but you're charging me $56, blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, fuck. Yeah, it's because we have to pay for this building and all the other things happening around you, and like, you're not just putting it in a bag and taking it home and drinking out of it.
Yes, also our three-tier system that we have.
Yeah, don't get me started on that bullshit.
That's wine distribution, people.
Yeah, we are still dealing with laws written shortly after Prohibition. So that's bonkers. Anyway, what was the question again?
It was blind tasting.
Oh, it is important when you're learning wine, I think, to be able to perceive things, understand tannin, understand acid, because that's those things that we talk about that our body. It's really important, especially as a person in a restaurant, to understand, because that's the things you're going to deal with when you're pairing food and wine. Right. Those are the things that come to mind first. It also is great if you're trying to like figure out like what is typical, what does Cornas taste like.
Right.
So I think it's valuable, but I also think that the spirit of it sometimes is a little less generous.
Right.
I fucking hate it when somebody's like, "Hey, what's this?" You're like, oh Christ, I don't know. It's Grosses Gewachs Riesling. It's from 2009. I don't fucking whatever. Because the parlor trick of it is and again, I've done the thing where you're in an academic situation.
Right.
I almost just fucking bragged. Man, I almost turned into that douchebag saying, there was this one time when I called it a 97 Insignia. Fuck that guy. I was almost that guy, though. Like, because it feels fucking rad when you nail it. When
it does. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you feel like, but it happens one out of every 50 times, maybe?
It's not that often, yeah.
And I think that, again, that academic side of wine also cuts off, like, there's some great expressions of wine that tasted blind. I don't know if you're really understanding the spirit behind it. So
yeah, because my view on blind tasting has always been education.
Yeah.
I'm here to learn, and if I get it right, that means I am absorbing this information correctly, right? And I've been a part of a lot of blind tasting groups that I've had. At first, it was just me and my friend, and we watched the Psalm 1 documentary, and we were fresh into wine.
Yeah.
We were just in a tasting room, right? And then we're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Every week, we're going to blind each other. You bring 2 bottles, I'll bring 2 bottles. And then we don't have to drink them all here. Just take home what you want and then drink it throughout the week or whatever, or in a couple days. And then
well, that shit's fun.
that's fun, and that's how we got started. And then we started understanding so much more just based on experience because in Santa Barbara, we had some wine shops, had a lot of international wines,
Right.
and so it could be anything that he brings to your table. And then I was at a spot called Jaffer's Wine Cellars in Santa Barbara making wine there, and then there was everyone there was green, like super green. And then I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me share this passion with you, and maybe you'll learn something. And so I brought them to the tasting stuff, and then they didn't know shit about wine. And they're like, I don't know, it tastes like cherries or whatever. And then, fast forward 6 months later, they're hitting them. Like, not vintage, because we would do the whole vintage region, grape variety thing. And it's a fun standard to try and shoot for.
Yeah.
It's a good target, but, you're not going to hit the bullseye every time. Like, it's going to be one out of, like, if you're really good, one every 10 bottles or something like that.
Yeah, and but those bottles that you nail are really specific.
Yeah.
And touchstone bottles.
Yes.
And those are good to know.
Yeah. And sometimes because you know the people, because you've been with them a
right.
lot,
You'd be like, oh yeah.
You kind of know what their budget is.
Yeah.
And so like there's this one time that they were blinding me on stuff, and then I was like, okay, I said the vintage. I was wrong on it, but it doesn't matter. And then I was like, I think this is, Old World. I think it's Rhone area. Seems to be a blend. But honestly, I could taste the fruitiness from the Grenache. I could taste the earth from the Mourvèdre, the pepper from the Syrah. And so I was like, I think this is a Rhone blend. So I'm going to say it's Gigondas. Because it's definitely not going to be Chateauneuf du Pape.
Because they can't afford that shit.
He can't afford that. And I was right.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that wasn't a full blind tasting. I knew the guy. Right. I mean, it was brown bagged. But
so when I do tasting competitions for magazines like Sip Magazine or the Great Northwest Invitational, we're judging wines blind. And I think that context is important. But then again, when you're judging, you're coming with everything that you know about wine.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're on a panel with people that have different filters, and maybe your idea of quality is different than their idea of quality. So I mean, how did I get on that, Jag? I think that it's the headspace of tasting blind is good. But you don't have to be completely blind to be able to get into that headspace and experience and extrapolate the information out of the glass.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some people that are really good at it.
Yeah.
Because
when I moved to Chelan, like the tasting group I was a part of, it was fun. We'd bullshit a lot. We talk shit to each other, and it's fun and lighthearted.
Totally.
Right?
Right.
When I did a Chelan thing, created a group there, everyone was so fucking serious and scared.
Right.
We were terrified.
Well,
and I had some seasoned winemakers there that have never blind tasted before, and so there's some ego there. They're like, "Oh, I know wine, but like, oh shit, blind tasting. Oh shit, this is new. I have to be humble in this setting, which I haven't known nothing about something in a long time, right?" And so that was an interesting experience coming from like the fun, lighthearted bullshit to the more everyone was more serious, and I was trying to poke fun at people to
lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah. And then some people really took offense to it and just and they just recoiled. I was like, oh, okay, maybe my intentions here weren't clear.
There's so much intimidation in the world of wine, though. Like, that's when the quartermasters first came to Seattle to do testing at the W Hotel back in February of 2002, there was a bunch of us that were going to go take the test.
Yeah.
Because we were wine people, right? We were working at a restaurant and we were pulling corks for a living.
Yeah.
But a lot of people dropped out last thing because, like, what if you take that test and not passed? Then your bona fides are fucking gone. So
Right.
I think blind tasting kind of feels like that too. Like if I can't call a wine today, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's.
But it has nothing. I mean, doesn't really have a lot to do with winemaking. I mean, it has to do with your palate. Well, a winemaker's tasting palate is completely different than a sommelier's tasting palate.
I do love tasting with winemakers because they know flaws better than I do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I'm like, tell me what that is. I've not heard.
I mean, I've tasted with Charlie. He's a winemaker at Cardis here where we're recording right now. I didn't make that clear when we started the Patreon episode. And the co-owner of Cardis. When I taste with him very often, and I learn something new he's so nerdy. Like we just did an episode with him a couple episodes back, and he is so curious and nerdy about everything having to do with making the wine. He can taste it and be like, yeah, well, I just think they did this too early or this too late, or maybe whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know how you do that.
There's a difference between driving a car and building a car.
Yeah.
Like he builds cars.
Yeah.
We drive them.
Yeah.
It's I'm not. I don't have.
It's
there's so much
thing.
science in the world of wine. Like that.
Yeah.
I think that some people, the people that don't understand the science of wine, don't oftentimes make great wine.
Right.
Yes. Although.
Well, you can know the science and not have a palate, and then
right.
And you also make shitty wine because you don't know what faults are.
But then again, I think a little flaw isn't bad.
Right, that's an interesting conversation because there is the idea of like some people think like a little bit of Brett adds some complexity, adds some earthiness.
It's Cindy Crawford's mole.
Yeah.
That's without that mole, she's not Cindy Crawford.
Right.
But she's beautiful because that mole. And so I have had arguments with people that are smarter than me.
Great example.
That if there's Brett in the wine, they're like, that's a flaw. Brett's a flaw. But I'm like, no, yeah, but it's a beautiful flaw. It's delightful.
Yeah, well, that's a winemaker.
Yeah, or oxidation.
Saying that too.
I think oxidation is great in a wine sometimes. Enough of it. Like a Chardonnay that has a little bit of oxidation, has that little bit of nuttiness, is so great with certain food applications.
Right.
Because that nuttiness bridges to things really nicely.
Yeah. But oxidation is an interesting one because I do like the nuttiness. I know what you're saying, but then there's a line where it just becomes like bruised yellow apple really quick.
There definitely is I have some bottles in the inventory that I'm saving for the next time I teach flawed wines because they're oxidized and they're not pleasurable anymore.
Totally. I wish I could know. I mean, everyone wishes us that drinks wine, I think, but like wish I knew when a wine was corked before I pull the cork, just for education purposes, because so many times we're like, I don't know what corked wine smells like. I'm like,
we usually have one at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, because we pull corks out of so many bottles
each night. Yeah.
And corks have gotten better, but it's still a lousy way to plug up the neck of a bottle. Like I think it's. The technology that preceded the cork was an oily rag shoved in with a thumb, so I don't know why we have a problem. And yes, cork farming is a thing, and like there's people affected if we stop using corks. I get all that stuff,
right?
But it's dumb.
Yeah.
I'd rather imagine if the thing that we sealed our beers with created faults once every 100 bottles of beer. Be like, fuck this thing. Let's use something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've done a lot.
I mean, cork technology has come so far.
Yeah.
Like
a
DM.
Lot. Yeah.
Do you know about DM corks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. I did. Actually, at Chelan Cars tasting room, DM came there, did a whole presentation. I was there for it.
But I just want to. So why? But why are we going to all these great lengths when you can just put a fucking Stelvin on that, or a goddamn bottle cap, or a Tetra Pak, or whatever we put wine in? It's part of that that aspirational fine wine marketing thing is like, if it's not in a 750 bottle with a cork in it, I can't charge that much.
Yeah.
But you're like, well,
I've had some great liter bottles from Italy with a cork, like with a screw cap on it.
yeah, no, it's
that are red wines.
yeah. But again, because we have to sell wine, we have to adhere to the traditions so that we can have a larger audience. Because I think maybe I might be a little bit of being in the minority as far as like being okay with a wine being in a fucking milk carton.
Well, that's another trend I was actually going to talk to you about on the original episode. We didn't have time for it. Is pouches.
Yeah.
With the tap on it.
Yeah.
Because Toddless Creek, they did a 3-liter box with a bag. And then the Walls did the same thing. And then Amos Rome, they're coming out with one in April. And so that 3-liter rosé.
I'm sure they'll sell the shit out of it.
That's 4 bottles.
Yeah, why not?
And
the amount of energy it takes to transport those bottles, that box versus those bottles.
Yeah, the box or the pouch or whatever it is.
It's, I think...
You can drink on a boat.
I think it's going to be really easy to get those into people's refrigerators and homes.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to get those in restaurants, though.
Yeah.
Because...
well, is it, though? Because is there...
I think that there's...
a legal thing? Or?
No, it has nothing to do with the law. It has to do with people being like, oh, you're charging me $12 for that glass of wine that you're pouring out of a box?
Right.
Who the fuck are you guys? Like that.
They keep the box in the fridge.
Yeah. Yes.
It was white.
But still, like, when we buy cooking wine, it's in a fucking box. And if we leave it on the floor too long, I get nervous because people are walking by seeing fucking boxed wine in the restaurant.
That makes
so
sense.
Yeah. Rule number 1, box wine goes right in the kitchen. Don't let people see that shit.
Yeah.
Because, I think that there's going to be somebody clever enough to open like a wine bar where it's just boxed wine.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the kind of wine bar where you're drinking out of maybe a red Solo cup and everybody's got dogs and we're just hanging out. Like, I could see the potential of that kind of wine bar where it feels more like a brewery.
Like more of like a brewery
room.
style. I totally get that. Do you, how do you feel about glassware and presentation? Is it important to you? Kind of going off the red Solo cup thing.
Yeah.
Because to me, like, I don't know, maybe I'm a snob or crazy, but like I love doing this shit.
Yeah.
You know?
No, we do love
it's
swirling
also a
our
tick
stuff.
of mine now at this point. It's just something I do on a board.
I swirl whatever I'm drinking, even if it's like a glass of water. I'm swirling that shit.
Yeah. I've swirled lots of beer.
Yeah. I think
On
so.
accident.
At home, I have a lot of different glassware. Some of it is that plastic Govino fucking stemless shit.
Yeah.
Because I just toss in the washing machine and not think about it.
It's a little easier.
I think that it kind of depends on the venue.
Yeah.
Like in a restaurant.
So it's more of a setting thing for you?
It really is. Because we have different glassware in different restaurants. The Mexican restaurants, some of them don't have stemware. But I think it's okay because I'm eating a burrito, drinking a Baja Sauvignon Blanc, so I'm fine drinking it out of that glass.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that there maybe is a little too much like. I've done the seminars where you taste different liquids out of different glassware, and there's a difference, but it's not enormous. Yeah. And so we basically have 3 glasses. A sparkling wine glass, which isn't a flute. It's more like a...
like a tulip flute? Or?
No, it's more like a... I think the term... I think it's called a Prosecco glass. Riedel makes it. But it just has a wider mouth and it allows you to get more aromatics. And then we have Burgundy glasses, and we have just sort of classic... Bordeaux style glasses.
And people on this podcast know how I feel about champagne flutes.
The garbage.
I just don't like them.
Oh, good.
Like I just.
We're not going to fight
if
today.
If you're gonna pour me bubbles, put it in a white wine glass.
Yeah. Don't mess around.
Yeah. Or any glass.
Any glass would be fine.
That's not a champagne flute.
No. That's like. I feel like that's a leftover from the 80s.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, it depends. Like you were saying earlier, your situation and the environment, for sure. Like if I'm having this champagne for the first time, I don't want it in a champagne flute. I want it in a white wine glass so
No.
I can taste everything,
Yeah.
single thing.
Yeah,
But if I've had this wine for a million times and we're cheersing to a wedding or like whatever, I
Yeah.
don't give a shit about the glassware.
Well, if you're
at that point,
most wedding wine is not giving a shit
I mean,
about that anyway.
Yeah. That's a good point. Bad example, but if I've had this bottle for a long time,
Yeah,
or,
if you're not
you know.
drinking for evaluation, but yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, I think flutes are.
if it's not evaluating the wine, then
I think flute sales
I'm a
are
little
down in
relaxed.
general. Yeah.
you think so?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see them much anymore.
Yeah.
I guess I don't go to those places, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm seeing more like the modern, sleek, upright, geometric kind of flutes.
Again, there's so much fashion in wine.
Yeah.
Like and glassware. Like it's a business. Like
Yeah.
if you made a glass that was perfect and never broke,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have a business. So
Yeah.
they make them just fragile enough
Yeah.
to. I mean, if I had a tally of all the glassware I've broken over the last 35 years in restaurants,
Yeah.
it would be quite a tally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've broken a lot of shit. I feel like Riedel owes me some money for all the destruction that I've caused.
Yeah.
Yeah, we the amount of money we spend on glassware for the restaurants every year is pretty steep. But then
Yeah.
it's made of glass.
Yeah. Same
It's gonna
time.
break.
Speaking of which, my girlfriend knows me a lot of wine glasses. She always fucking breaks them.
Well, again, they're fragile.
I need to have a spot where she can't bump into them or touch them,
Got it. All right.
where I can just wash them and put them away.
Yeah.
A lot of the problem is I don't put them away at the same time I leave them there for a couple of days, just upside down on the drying
mat,
rack
yeah.
or whatever, and then she ends up hitting it or something like that.
I'm gonna blame you for this. It's on you, man.
It
your
is
shit
on
away.
me. It's all on me, man. That's good relationship advice.
Yeah, it's always gonna be you. It is the truth.
Well, you're married, so that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's. I can't wait till women just take over, right?
Yeah.
We've been fucking it up for centuries.
Totally.
And, yeah.
I just want to be a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah. That doesn't sound that bad. Mine's in high school now, so that ship has sailed.
The
Yeah.
ship has sailed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How old is?
He's gonna be 15 in May. So.
15. Yeah. I was a real shithead in 15.
We lucked out. We got a good one.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. He's just maybe he's smarter than me. Maybe that's the thing. Yeah.
Did you take after his dad or his mom more?
He's got his mom's brains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
From here up, it's all her. That's
That's a great response.
It's
That
the
checks
only
out.
response.
That
yeah.
checks out.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the only response. Exactly.
It sure is. So I forgot to tell you this story. The first bottle of wine I ever consumed was in Chelan.
It was.
It was at the top of Noceum Road by the golf course there.
Yeah.
I was sitting on the hood of my dad's Caprice Classic. It was two-tone brown,
Oh, cool.
with my cousin Stacy, and it was a bottle of San Michel Gewürztraminer that we took the
course,
car
yeah.
key and like shoved the cork inside the bottle and downed it. So like Chelan's it's definitely a place in my heart. We used to go there every Memorial Day and
I love it.
week in August, and after college there was a place called Dale's Tavern that me and some buddies used to roll up into, and we were in a band, and the bartender
Nice.
bartender Michael was an old musician. Not old, he wasn't old, but he was a musician. And
Oh, okay,
He
yeah.
had all the
Previously,
gear, and
yeah.
we used to go to Dale's and play Dale's. So yeah, I've had a lot of good times in Chelan over the years.
Dale's, where's?
It's gone now.
Yeah.
It was on the right hand
assume so.
side, up from. I mean, was Senior Frog still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's keep going down the street toward the Apple Cup.
Uh-huh.
It was on the right hand side. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I don't know what's there now.
Cool. All you
It's-
Schlan locals,
yeah.
if you listen to this,
If you
there you go.
remember Dale's, man,
Remember Dale's?
and Michael the bartender. Yeah,
Michael the bartender
Yeah.
at Dale's.
Yeah.
If you're still around.
it was super fun. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Man, what year was that?
That was the late '90s, early zeros.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't a very good band. We weren't great.
I mean, I was in a band as well.
Yeah.
We were terrible.
And we didn't have a lot of material either.
Yeah. What kind of band? Like, what was your influences for your band?
Well, this was the 90s, and but we were acoustic, so I don't know if you could really draw a lot of lines between. I mean, we really loved the Jar of Flies album from Alice in Chains, like that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But also, we had a little. I had a finger picking style too, so there's a little bluesy folksy in there too.
Oh, nice. So you were actually kind of decent.
I was
at playing the guitar.
I was okay
as a musician, not as a band, but like as a musician.
I still play.
You do?
It's a great way to relax.
Yeah.
It's
I still play a little bit too. I only play like country music or whatever, but which is completely opposite of what I usually listen to.
Yeah, I grew up on country music. My dad was from the hills of West Virginia, so
okay.
That was always in the car.
My dad's from Alabama.
Oh, yeah?
Roll Tide, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up on rap and hip hop.
All right.
Mostly. So a lot of like underground Seattle rappers, Blue Scholars, like Common Market, and of course I got introduced to Tupac when I was 10 years old. So,
oh wow.
Yeah.
That's the only story you have to tell.
That's great. Yeah. That started me, and then
wow.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But then I got into country like in high school because my next door neighbor across the street from me, she used to burn me CDs and bring it over to my house, give me some country stuff that she would listen to, introduced me to Brad Paisley,
Gotcha.
And so I was like, okay, I can appreciate this.
Burning CDs, man.
It was, giving your computer AIDS is awesome.
Yeah.
Just for a few songs,
it's,
LimeWire.
Napster, remember that shit?
Oh, yeah. Now it's Spotify.
Yeah.
Hey, he figured it out.
Yeah.
Sean Parker, I think his name is. Created Napster. Was completely illegal.
Oh, yeah.
But it was, had a good run. It got shut down, and then he created Spotify and then sold it.
And is probably sitting somewhere tropical right now enjoying life.
Probably hanging out in Palo Alto. All the other tech dudes.
Yeah. It's an interesting part of the world.
Enjoying some wine. I mean, so when you're on vacation, I guess it really depends on where you're going. But are you drinking wine or are you drinking other cocktail?
I think that
all the above.
A lot of our travel is to wine growing regions. This year we did Germany, Alsace, Switzerland, Austria. Yeah. We also spent some time in Tuscany, but what I do when I'm there is I don't ask for anything that I've had before, like because I know that there's all sorts of wines everywhere in the wine growing world that I'll never get a chance to have living here in Washington. So I just usually... You
mean like grape varieties, different blends, or different producers or
producers
areas?
I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
And also, totally grape varieties as well.
Yeah.
Just love going to a wine shop, and when you find the right person, and just explain like, give me some shit that I can't get anywhere else. That's what I love to do.
Yeah.
And then I don't fill my suitcase with it either, because it just won't taste the same back here. I think
because of the experience.
I there's something about taking wine from its source that sometimes it's just not the same.
Do you believe in like spiritual like realm things when it comes to wine, and not just wine but other things too? But
I think that I don't want to live in a world that doesn't have some magic.
Exactly. Yeah.
So here's a wine related magic story. I was doing a biodynamic seminar down in Napa Valley in like 2012.
A biodynamics seminar?
Yeah, it was a weekend, like a biodynamic weekend where they teach you how to do compost teas and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the winemaker, Rudy, was telling a story about when he first started at the winery, and he did not believe in biodynamics. He thought it was fucking bullshit. Because if you just read about it, it sounds a little bit voodoo-y, like
sure.
The moon cycles.
When you're racking on a full moon versus half moon.
You can't taste my wine today. It's not a fruit day. Like what? But he was
going that extreme with wine sales is kind of weird. But
he was talking about the vineyard manager who'd been there for years. Just one day he says, "Oh, it's going to be a really wet winter," and he's like, "What?" He's like, yeah, look what the trees are doing. They're dropping all their pine cones. Or sorry, they're not dropping their pine cones. And he's like, wow, that's weird. And then that was a really wet winter. And then the next year, he's like looking to see what the trees are doing. And so there's...
His name was Rudy?
Yeah.
From where?
It was Eller's Winery. Back
Eller's Estate?
Yeah.
In Napa?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Awesome. They listen to this podcast.
Oh, great. Yeah, my wife was just down there doing a tasting with her best friend Becky last.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh,
I love their wines. They're not available right now in Washington, which is a shame. But
well, yeah, they invited me to come down there and do a podcast with their winemaker. So
yeah,
at some
I
point,
don't think he's there anymore. I think
I gotta do it.
definitely have a different crew. Yeah,
someone else.
It's been a decade plus. So yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But this year, walking the dog through the neighborhood, I noticed that the trees are dumping all their seeds, and that's because it was that fall was really dry. And so if a plant knows that it's only going to get so much resources to get those seeds ripe to propagate, they'll do their own green harvesting and get rid of everything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fascinating. Like there's something, with a gun in my head, maybe it's not true, but I'd rather there be some magic.
Right. I agree with that too.
It's magical when you taste a wine and you are transported to that place that it came from. Mm-hmm. That's fucking magical.
Yeah, my friend Jessica Gasca, she's a owner and winemaker for her own label called Story of Soil in Santa Barbara. She sources pretty much all of her fruit from the Santa Rita Hills area, from biodynamic and organic and sustainable wineries. But she follows the biodynamic way of making wine, and so she does follow the moon cycles.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it is about it because I don't have enough of information. I don't have enough knowledge of biodynamics or the moon phases to actually talk about it with any sort of education. But she exemplifies it. Her wines are fucking phenomenal, and there has to be something to it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. There have been some days. So when I'm tasting a lot of wines in a day, some days I fucking nothing is worth what they're asking for. Like the prices are all wrong.
Right.
But then there's some days where everything tastes fucking delicious.
Yeah.
And if you look at the biodynamic calendar and it says it's a fruit day, you're like, fuck.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's something to it, but I don't know. The fermentation is kind of magical. Yeah, we understand yeast consumes sugar and create, but the flavors that yeast create, that's magic. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
That different yeasts produce different flavors? Really? So what?
Yeah. It's interesting. Because the way I learned was low intervention winemaking. Mm-hmm. And so we did a lot of native ferments when I was learning. And that was the first, second, and third winery I worked for.
Right.
They were doing native stuff, not all native, but mostly native. And then I come to an area that doesn't necessarily have that same mindset or culture involved, and I think native is bullshit. And it's like, oh, I've never had this sort of friction before when talking about native ferments, because I don't know how you feel about points or whatever, but when I was doing a native ferment with like X, Y, and Z at Jaffers, we would regularly get like 99 points from Jeb Dunnick, which is great. We were always searching for that 100 mark, but and that was a regular thing, at least like 3 years in a row. And then I come to a different place where they're doing a lot more manipulation and not making the same quality. And there's also a lot of different variables within that too. Mm-hmm. Terroir is a thing, where you grow grapes, how you farm it, when you pick it, everything. But at the same time, I'm like, well, these people have kind of archaic tools. Like, they haven't bought any new equipment in like 10 fucking years. Yeah. And they're making some kick-ass shit. And then you're wanting to buy like everything. And you're not.
Yeah.
And so it's
Better
like
wine through technology sometimes is not true.
Yeah, I don't think quality wine stems from technology. I don't think that's a thing. But it does help in certain cases. Like, you can't rely on technology to make the wine for you.
No.
So.
Although there are some wineries that just make wine by recipe, so it's
Yes. All those oscillating sorting machines are crazy. Have you heard about those? So basically, it's a new technology. Well, new within the last 5 years or so. So O'Shaughnessy and Napa, they have this. They have 2 or 3 of these sorting machines because they're crazy. So you there's like a iPad essentially on the sorting machine, and then you tell it which grapes you want. Like, these are the ones I want to keep.
right.
Ones that look like this. Keep this.
So it's like an optical sorter on steroids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it has a little laser and goes through, has a little puff of air. Everything that's not up to that standard gets puffed out.
Yep.
It's like, what the fuck?
It's crazy.
It's so fucking expensive.
Their Howell Mountain stuff's pretty
It's
good.
like buying a house for 3 houses.
Yeah.
Because they have 3 of them. But
I think it's great that we can live in a world where that technology can create a very specific experience where another winemaker will be like, whole cluster, that's the way to make wine.
Right.
Like, there's so many different avenues to go down.
Yeah, and there's also stylistic. Yeah.
But I think that a lot of winemakers, if you ask them, what do you do today, any winemaker that's been doing it for a couple decades,
Right.
like, do you make wine the same way you did a decade ago? They'll be, no.
Yeah.
Everything's different.
Oh, yeah.
We're still learning.
Yeah.
And I think that when I think about the quality of wine in the Northwest over the last 20 years, like, it's changed a fuck ton.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good fucking wine out there.
There is, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's quite all right.
I love it.
Does make
But it's
it
hard to
difficult
make a list.
It
Harder
is.
to make a list
It
because you're
is
like, I want to
harder.
add this, I want to add this.
It is, and because you can't buy everybody's wine.
Yeah.
And
Does it break your heart sometimes?
It does, because there's some winemakers who are making great stuff, but the business of buying wine isn't just getting the things you want. It's part of it's continuity, part of it's price, part of it's
right.
What does the restaurant need? Like, when I taste with people, I never tell them what I think because it doesn't fucking matter what I think. It's what the restaurant needs. Yeah. And so I try to take myself out of the equation as much as possible because I can fall in love with the wine, but it might not end up on the wine list because
it's not about you. It's about the customer and it's about the restaurant. And
I don't want to ever have people look at my wines and go, "Oh, that's definitely a Chris Horn wine list," because I don't want to have my hand in that in such a way that it becomes obvious. I think a good wine list is like having every kind of music that you can think of in the same place, and so that when somebody comes in and wants some country music, I've got a bottle of it, and it's priced correctly, and it sounds great. Yeah. So.
And then you got a bottle of Ace of Spades sitting in the back of the fridge too.
For the people that want to spend money.
Yeah, spend money.
Yeah. No, that's.
That's Jay-Z's label.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't know.
Oh wow, when they were.
He's part owner, not the full owner.
We've had a lot of celebs come in over the years, and so when he was in town with Beyonce, we made sure that we got some Douce cognac.
There you go.
Just in case they came in.
Just in case.
Because
you gotta have it.
Because what happens if Jay-Z asks for his cognac and you're like, oh, I don't have it.
You gotta have it for Hove and the Queen, man.
Yeah. Don't be a dick. But sadly, no, they did.
Yeah. I forgot to do this for the main episode, but can you plug? I'll put it in as well. Yeah. Plug anything you need to plug or want to.
Oh, I mean, I think that I'm not really good at self promotion.
Okay.
Never have been.
Yeah.
I'm not selling anything either.
Maybe restaurant promotion.
I mean, people can come to Purple Cafe Seattle or Woodinville, but we have a variety of great restaurants. We have some great Mexican restaurants. We have a lovely sort of American Italian concept, and then we have a really amazing sort of plant-forward restaurant called Live Bud that is
That's a newer one.
Yeah, it's some of the best food that we make, and Chef Sarah is fierce, and the wine list is it does skew toward the natural side of things.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's
but
cool.
it's just hard to find because all the construction on the road in front of the place makes it hard to get.
It's crazy, but that will fade in time.
It will.
Which is good.
But yeah, I think we're just gonna keep trying because it's in the restaurant business. If you don't keep evolving and keep trying, you will die. So I think we've done a pretty good job.
You gotta be a chameleon.
Yeah.
Gotta adapt.
And we've for a thing that I said would never work, it's been 18 years.
Yeah. There you go.
It's never gonna work.
I'm still here.
I'm still here.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It's working. It's working.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chris, for coming on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Thanks for
Jabroni Gang, thank you guys for your support. I hope you love this episode. Thank you, man. Cheers.